Yo, dudes and dudettes, welcome to the show, and thank you for jumping in with us, man. Lots going on today, whole lot going on, and we are lucky enough to have our guy Alex Shapiro from NBC Sports Chicago here to break it all down for us, man. Really nervous day on the Bears fronts. A lot of anxiety out there. I may have played a role in that on Twitter, and may have stepped in it a little bit, and I will be a man and fall on the sword. So we'll take care of that once we get done talking to Alex, and so a little bit later. So stay tuned for that. Samo, man, it's a lot of people out, man. I heard upwards of 20 guys, man. What's how you feeling about all this?
I'm maintaining right now, trying to keep my bearings. Shout out to everyone in the chat before I get started. All the Nomadiacs, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Appreciate all you guys, missing you guys. I know there's so much to talk about, man, on the injury front, man. We still have 18 days or so before game one. So I'm optimistic about about guys just getting healthy by that time.
Well, I think one good thing is we do have quite a bit of time before game one. September 10th is a little further away than it appears to be right now. It gives guys a lot of time off their feet and just to heal a little bit. But without further ado, let's bring our guy in, man, who knows more than we all know, all the information that we need to know. My man Alex Shapiro. Man, Alex. All right, without getting into
Alex.
specific players, how bad is it from your point of view so far?
First of all, thanks again for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to join you all again. I see it two ways. One is, as we alluded to, it's still 2.5 weeks until the regular season starts. But the other side of the coin is, by the end of practice today, 21 guys were not participating. And if you extrapolate that to a 53-man roster, they got 91 guys right now. But if you extrapolate that to a 53-man roster, that is nearly 40% of a team. So it's like, it's hard to get work done during practice when so many guys are out, especially on the offensive line. On the offensive line, to me, it is more worrisome because it appears like the Bears are just back in that offensive line blender like we saw at the beginning of 2022. And to me, that's where I have a level of concern. Here's the other thing is we don't know the level of injury for most of these guys. The Bears have come out and said Tevin Jenkins is week to week, which to me indicates that's a serious injury because everybody else has been day to day and they've missed multiple weeks, right? Like day to day can be week to week and in many cases has been week to week. So like, am I full blown DEFCON 5 panic mode right now? No. But I mean, there's got to be a certain level of concern that, guys are not out there getting their work in. And now, like, if there are not improvements, I'm sorry, I'm just like, I'm going off. I'm taking this little question, I'm running with it. But if I am Matt Eberflus and I don't see significant health updates on the offensive line, I have a little trepidation throwing Justin Fields out there for the last preseason game. Now, I would imagine the Bears would, Matt Eberflus has said they want to see Justin Fields playing another preseason game. And I believe Justin Fields needs more work in a preseason game. Like, this offense needs to get some live reps with live tackling before they're ready for week one, in my opinion. But if Cody Whitehair with one hand, because his right snapping hand is wrapped up big time, playing guard, and Braxton Jones are your only two healthy starters, I would be worried about throwing Justin Fields out there in the preseason.
I think you should be. But before we get into specifics of the old line, I know you said there were somewhat like 21 people out. How many of those guys were on bikes and trying to ramp up?
All of them. So only a few guys were just totally MIA. Trying to think. For the most part, every single guy who is out is doing some sort of calisthenics, whether it's on the bikes, whether it's doing plank core work, et cetera, et cetera. The Bears do a pretty good job of trying to keep those guys wind up, so that it's a shorter ramp up. Now, I mean, the ramp ups have been confusing because the ramp ups have been up, the ramp ups have been down, the ramp ups, it's like it's hard to keep track of who's ramping up and who's had a setback, but we're calling it a ramp up. But for the most part, all of the guys are getting some sort of cardio work in on the sidelines.
Hey, by all accounts, Eberflus runs a very intense training camp. By all accounts, I think Darnell Mooney talked about it the other day. Do you see that playing a part in all these injuries? And I haven't heard Flus talk about that much. And has there been a scale back now that all these injuries have occurred?
No, not really. I will say the Bears made the decision to go inside today because of the heat, which I think was a very good decision. I think it would have been really tough and possibly dangerous to practice outside. So they moved it inside the Walter Payton Center. I have not noticed a downtick in terms of practice tempo. I don't know what to assess all of these injuries to. It is worth noting that it feels like 2 years in a row. I didn't go back and look at the exact numbers, but I feel like last year there were also a decent amount of injuries at this time. So I would imagine they're going to assess everything. We'll see, what types of conclusions they make, but I just not having the facts or not being at other training camps. I'm so dialed into the Bears training camp. It's not like I can compare it to the Bucs training camp or the Lions training camp or you know what I mean? We're so dialed into the way Eberflus has done things. And again, I started Matt Nagy. So my only point of reference is how Matt Nagy did things. And the pace of practice was definitely slower with Matt Nagy. I see Matt Nagy in the chat. Boom. I remember you from our rush days. Good to see you, Matt Nagy. You definitely ran a little, I don't want to say it was slower tempo. Now, again, is it the players? Is it coaches being overly cautious at this point in the year with about 19 days or so to go until the regular season? Is it the strength and conditioning coaches not getting them properly done? Is it the pace of practice? Is it any number of things? Is it the recovery that they're doing? There are a lot of things along the way that could be leading to these injuries. I don't know enough to point at one thing and say this is the problem, this is the issue. But I would be shocked if the Bears don't, after this year, really evaluate the way they were doing things to see if they can keep guys healthier next season.
Absolutely.
Before I ask you this question, I being someone that's used to intense practice, I do believe that you practice like you play. By the time you get to the game isn't overwhelming for you. It's not a shot to the system. Like, wow, I'm out of breath. And, it's you've already built that throughout camp. So with that being said, I'll say they should always evaluate after every year and see how they can do things better at every time. Absolutely. But I know you guys have some margins that you have to stay in when talking about injuries and what happens out on the field. But everybody wants to know what's the deal with Cole Kmet. And I know you can't get into specifics about how it happened. I don't think. Am I right?
You're correct. We're not allowed to say specific injury observations. I'll put it this way, though. So Cole Kmet, we were instructed to say, Cole Kmet left the practice field on a cart. He was not carted off. So there's a distinction there in that wording. Take from that what you will. I think there's a clear line. I'll just lay it out there, because I feel like, why do this hemming and hawing? It didn't look like a serious leg injury, right? Again, it was a hot day outside. We see guys taking carts to and from the Walter Payton Center all the time. I'm completely speculating at this point, but I don't think it was a serious leg injury. But again, he did take a cart off the field back to the facilities.
Well,
Jeez.
Go ahead, Sam. You got anything?
Jeez, it's just no. I just think that we're all just have to be optimistic right now and hope for the best and hope that it's just a lot of caution being taken. But what hurts the most though is you have new guys like Edmonds and our defensive end Walker who haven't really had any training camp, and they've been day to day since the beginning of training camp. So, so you don't know what to make of it. And it seems like Alex is just as perplexed as we are.
Well, hey,
Alex, it's perplexing.
What? So what about the O line? What's the rotation looking like with guys out now? Who's taking the first team reps as of now?
So that's again something I cannot.
Oh yeah,
I can't delve into that. But rotation is the right word. What I think I can say based on what we view in individual drills in the shooting periods, different guys are getting different looks at pretty much at every position that's not left tackle, which is Braxton Jones, and now left guard, which is Cody Whitehair. And I am able to say that Cody Whitehair's hand is very wrapped because, again, we see that during the shooting periods. Matty Eberflus has addressed that. I asked him point blank, like, yo, can this dude snap the ball with his hand? He did not answer, but he did address that, yeah, the hand is super wrapped. Mm-hmm. From what I can see, I don't think he would be able to snap the ball with that hand. Now, again, Matty Eberflus calls that day-to-day. As Samo just alluded to, guys have been day-to-day since like August 3rd. So we shall see. We shall see. But other than that, like this is another thing I can report. Lucas Patrick didn't participate today. Again, don't know why. He wasn't out there. So, I mean, you can go down the list of guys. The list of guys who are participating in the offensive line room is getting smaller and smaller. You can infer from that list who's doing what.
Wow.
Certainly testing the depth that we thought that we may have had on the offensive line. Have they talked about trying any guys out, or did you guys see anyone coming in today?
No, didn't see that. Sometimes you can kind of see that as we walk to and fro. Haven't noticed that. But here's what I will say. I would definitely expect the Bears to really be watching on cutdown day, next Tuesday. So 6 days from now, the 29th. The entire league goes now from 91 or 90 players down to 53. It's not staggered like it used to be. So there used to be opportunities as cutdowns happened, pick up a player here, pick up a player there. Now it's going to happen all in one fell swoop. And the Bears still have that number one waiver position, because they were the worst team in the league. They have the number one claim. So if there's a guy out there that they really want, they can go get him. And I expect the Bears to use that waiver claim position to bring in some sort of offensive lineman, whether it's on the interior or the exterior. That's where I think the Bears maybe bring in some help, is they look around the league and see, okay, what position group is really stacked? Where is a team going to have to make a really tough decision on a guy that's probably a pretty good player? And then where do we have the opportunity to pick up that player on waivers?
I'm curious, man, because for me, I see a different player this year in Larry Boone. I see a different body. I see a different guy with movement. His movements are different. I mean, he seems lighter on his feet, and I feel different about him than I did last year this time. And it adds up on tape to me when I evaluate him on tape. I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far. From your vantage point, what you've seen thus far in camp, how confident are you in Larry Bourne versus whatever your confidence was before?
Well, I would say just first off, from a tape perspective, you as a former player, I would trust your tape evaluation over my tape evaluation. Like I am not an offensive line coach. Let's start there.
It's too general.
However, based on eye test alone, last year, I agree. It looked like Larry Bourne was struggling in this new Chris Morgan system. I haven't written him down in my notebook as much as a guy who is struggling. Right. So from that vantage point alone, yeah, probably improved. Is that enough that you feel good about him being the starting right tackle if Darnell Wright can't get healthy enough for week one? I don't know, man. I don't know just quite yet.
Okay, hold on, Sam, because I know you got something, but you mentioned the name, and I got to speak on him later. But Darnell Wright, man, what is the situation, or is it anything that you can tell us on that?
Yeah, there are things I can tell you about that. So he left practice early yesterday. It was towards the end of practice. He left. It was an apparent leg injury. Today we saw him limping around with what appeared to be an ankle brace on his right foot, to the point that like his right shoe wasn't tied so that he could fit the ankle brace in there. And to me, he was walking with an obvious limp.
Okay, that's the farthest you can go with that because that's all you have, right? Go ahead, Sam. I don't want to keep talking.
Obvious information there. Inflammation there. All right, man. Let's just move on, man, from all the injuries real quick. Alex, it's just we don't want to turn this into a funeral type of feel. I just want to know what players have passed your eye test, during the training camp who have been on the field for the duration that you've seen, and then what players have maybe disappointed you a little bit or not met the expectations that you thought that they would have met, where they would have been this season?
Sure. That's a good question. So 2 guys in particular, I'm going to go all defensive linemen. How about that?
Okay.
2 guys who I think have really traded blows both in practice and in preseason are Travis Gibson and Terrell Lewis. And I have no idea how. I mean, I do know how the Bears are going to make a decision between those 2. Terrell Lewis has the 2 forced fumbles. He has the 2 strip sacks. That means a lot, obviously. And if he performs similarly, like I'm borderline Terrell Lewis is a roster lock at this point, which again, I can't believe I'm saying, that to me was a big surprise. This guy, he played on the practice squad last season. I had to remind myself that he was on the practice squad last season, right? Complete afterthought entering rookie minicamp and OTAs. Meanwhile, he's just looked better and better and better, and he's just continued to flash. I think Travis Gibson has also looked much improved from last season, where last season he was almost invisible. This year he's making the plays. He's looking more like the player who had 7 sacks in his second season. So I think that's a real battle. And I think both of those guys are NFL players. And whether or not they are on the Bears, like I think those guys have futures.
Great.
The one guy that I don't see, and it's interesting, and there's a few maybe explanations why. So Dominic Robinson has been ahead of each guy. And this is going back to when practices were still open. Dominic Robinson was repping ahead of each guy. He's ahead of them on the depth chart, right? But I haven't seen that same level of flash as I have with the other 2. Now, Dominic Robinson is repping against first string, higher guys on the depth chart than Travis Gibson and Terrell Lewis are. So that's one explanation, right? Travis Gibson is repping against UDFAs in some scenarios, and Travis Gibson is repping against some more established guys. Explanation why. But, we've seen Dom Rob win on stunts. Interestingly, the Bears have been really good with stunts. It's given the offensive line fits. And in those scenarios, I think he's been great. Otherwise, I think the Bears, I'm not going to speak for the Bears. I was expecting a little bit, maybe more from Dominic Robinson, especially to warrant that jump on the depth chart. I would love to see how Travis Gibson or Terrell Lewis do with Dominic Robinson's reps and how Dominic Robinson would do with the other 2 guys' reps, just to see kind of how it balances out. But for me, that's a guy where, I don't want to say disappointed, but maybe I expected a little bit more.
I you know what? And Ken Davis, your colleague, came on one time. He laughed right to my face. You tell Ken when I was talking about Terrell. Tell Ken, yes, Nomad is the internal optimist, and I'm coming for his soul. I'm gonna change his way of thinking.
All right, when was this? When was this conversation with Ken?
Oh, that was a couple months ago when he came on, but he just couldn't stand that I was so optimistic, and I was just trying to tell him why, man. I see things on tape, man. I'm just sorry.
I'm gonna be honest. I would have also kind of rolled my eyes and be like, like you're going pretty down the roster to pull that. Meanwhile, I mean, like truly, like it's a guy who I've seen incrementally improve. Where at OTAs, I've been like, who? Terrell, the Alabama guy? What? Right. But now, again, like I said, I'm pretty close to just calling him a roster lock.
I think you should be justified, man. I think he's pretty much earned it. I think, and that's funny you talk about Don Robinson. We've had that conversation, I think, for the last two shows. The last two shows we've done, that's been exactly the conversation. And the question is, for me, and I think I know the answer to it. I think they invested in him when they drafted him, and I think this team is about development. These coaches are about development. He's new to the position, and I think they're going to give him at least another season to come along in the way that he needs to come along. And so I want to say his roster spot is safe, but you never know. But he hasn't showed it on the field. He hasn't reaped any rewards on the field whatsoever. And so, with that being said, I mean, wow. I didn't think you'd come on here and say anything about Dominique Robinson, but he's not doing it in practice either, huh?
Nah. No, it is harder. I saw somebody asking about run defense. Like, it's really hard to judge run defense because most of the time the run installs are at jog through speed, and it's like really not fair to assess. But yeah, I just haven't written down. I guess it's 90 now in my notebook as often as I'm writing down 52 and 99.
Wow. So go ahead, Sam. You got anything?
Well, yeah, let's go to the other side of the ball. We haven't heard much about that running back competition, and it seems to be a stiff competition because we really like Khalil Herbert. I, for one, really like the other guy, and Dante Foreman. I think that he's really nice. But then this other guy, this rookie, is starting to jump up the charts as well. So, who's stood out to you, and from your eye test, who seems to have the leg up on the competition right now?
To answer your second question first, David Walker actually addressed this today. We got to speak to the offensive assistants today, which was great. I love talking to David Walker. He's a phenomenal, insightful coach. I mean, a lot of them are. I also love talking to Tyke Tolbert, John Hogue, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on and on. But I was talking with David Walker today, and basically at the beginning of the year, he said, Khalil Herbert's going to get the first crack at it, but then it's an open competition. Today, he was like, Khalil hasn't done anything to lose the job. So to me, that indicates he will still be the first man out. However, Walker was also, pretty clear in saying it's going to be a running back by committee, and we're going to need all three of those guys at certain points. And that's really how I see it. I think all three guys really can be honestly valuable, reliable running backs in many phases of the game. I don't see this as one bell cow and then some complementary pieces. I think they all complement each other really well, where let's say you give Khalil Herbert 2 series to start the game, and then you bring in Deonta Foreman for a series to give Herbert a blow. Then you bring back Herbert for a series, and then maybe you give him another blow and you give Roschon Johnson a series. They could do this running back by committee thing to keep everybody fresh so that everybody is performing effectively. Speaking to Roschon Johnson, the physicality when the pads have come out is real. I mean, we saw that in the preseason game, the last preseason game. Dude's like running through people. And that was something I asked David Walker about this a few times. Like, hey, what are you anticipating when the pads come on? He's like, I'm not anticipating anything because I know exactly what it's going to look like. And then sure enough, it's exactly what they were expecting, right? I think he said some guys look great in shorts running around, and then the pads come on and it's just okay. Some guys look just okay running around in shorts, and then the pads come on and you can see what they really do. Roschon Johnson falls in that latter camp. When they were just running around in shorts, nothing was super eye-popping. The moment the pads come on, it's like, oh, now you can see how this guy does what he really does. So for him, really the key was consistency, and he's becoming more consistent. That's not to say he's not making mistakes. We still see him make mistakes, and he will continue to make mistakes because he's a rookie, and they all make mistakes, right? None of these guys are perfect yet. But Deonta Foreman last year, or throughout his really entire Panthers career, dude didn't catch the football a ton. He was just kind of a north-south physical runner. I'm seeing the Bears use him as a pass catcher a ton. And you know what? He's pretty darn good as a pass catcher.
Boom.
Yeah. And then Khalil Herbert, everybody here knows what Khalil Herbert brings to the table, the burst, his shiftiness, making one cut, making one guy miss, and then taking off. We all know Khalil Herbert's a legit, really solid running back who fits this scheme particularly well. Again, last year, the running attack was a strength. It could low-key be even better this year.
So there's no reason to throw our draft picks in the Jonathan Taylor sweepstakes is what you're telling us.
Why'd you have to do that, man?
No, for what is it? A 1 year? He's got 1 year left on his deal. The Colts want a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Honestly, Poles has to do his due diligence and call, right?
Of course.
He would not be doing his job if he did not at least call, because obviously he's young. He's incredibly talented. He's very good. But the minute I hear first-round draft pick, if I'm Ryan Poles, I'm hanging up the phone, because these three guys are solid. And I know Deonta Foreman is only here on a 1 year deal. But even moving forward with Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson, and then maybe you add another rookie, next year, like no worries about the running back room.
Nice to hear.
Okay, before I get away from that subject, and I hate Samuel for bringing that up because I was going to end the whole conversation with that question. But
man.
glad he brought it up too. It was actually a beat reporter from Indy. It wasn't JJ, but I can't think of the guy's name offhand right now. But another beat reporter from Indy actually put it out there that the Bears had officially made contact with the coach, but no offer was presented at that time. So that was being put out by a Colts beat writer.
Sure. And again, that's Poles doing his job. He's got to call. He's got to ask.
Of course. Now, could you do us a favor? If you could any way, shape, or form suss any information about that out, could you let me know?
Well, that would be me doing my job now. It's now my job to go find the truth and find what's really going on. So yeah, if that just happened, if that just broke, this is the first I'm hearing of it. But again, it's completely unsurprising. I don't know how interested the Bears truly would be, because they're still at the very beginning of a rebuild. Their draft picks are going to be very precious. Yes, I know they have 2 first rounders because they also have the Panthers' first round pick. But I mean, when you're talking about looking at the way Poles has built this roster in terms of like positional value, well, I guess you can kind of throw that out the window because he paid a middle linebacker a ton of money. So I'm going to argue against myself. But again, as I'm talking through it right now, I just don't see the Bears sending a first-round draft pick, one of those super valuable first-round draft picks, to the Colts, especially when it might be a top 15, top 10 draft pick, when they have a legit chance to take a step forward this year. Let's say they go from a 3-win team to a 6 or 7-win team this year. Now you add 2 first-round draft picks next year, in addition to the foundation that you've built this year. Now you're cooking, right? So I think it would be short-sighted of the Bears to make a move like that. And Ryan Poles has been so disciplined, I think it would be out of character for him to make a move like that.
I think that's out of question, like you said. However, would you consider the fact that the Bears just went there and practiced with the Colts for an entire week? Maybe they fell in love with a guy on our roster that they might be willing to exchange for Jonathan Taylor and a lower round draft pick.
I mean, maybe, but again, the Bears are building their roster, not sending pieces. I don't see them sending a guy. Like, what would it take? What kind of player. Now you're talking about like
I'm not going to name any names. There's a cornerback who wants a
Jalen
contract,
Johnson,
who might not be a good fit for this defense. So.
maybe. I think the Bears will really like Jalen Johnson though, even though the takeaways haven't been there. And say what you will about fit or whatever, and takeaways or whatever, that dude is a shutdown corner, and those are hard to find. You know, he's a rare guy who can take away a team's number one option, shadow them across the field, no matter where they are, and shut them down. That A.J. Brown matchup that they had against the Eagles, I know A.J. Brown had pretty good stats, but like that to me was a heavyweight fight. And Jalen took it to A.J. Brown a couple of times. He denied him a few big plays where, you know, anybody else, that could have been a monstrous day for A.J. Brown. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's an interesting thought. It's totally an interesting thought. And I see where your head's at, right? We're trading two guys who are rentals. But again, for a running back, for Jonathan Taylor, who is super banged up and might still be banged up, I just don't see it.
All right.
Okay. So, you know what? I got some comments about that. I'd say a 2 and maybe a 5, maybe Khalil Herbert is reasonable. More than reasonable for Jonathan Taylor, who is injured right now. But we won't have to carry that conversation forward. We'll do this after you leave. But the whole Bears community, the entire Bears community, and I speak for them right now, the biggest question they want to know from you, Alex, is how earth-changing and world-changing was Africa to you?
Oh, you want to talk Africa?
I think they're asking, man.
Fans in the chat know that I was in Africa? Amazing.
I want to know, man. You spoke about
it. Was
before motherland.
The motherland. True. There it is. Okay, renewable and rechargeable review. It was awesome. I mean, trip of a lifetime. Like truly. So we went to South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. I did not bless the rains because it did not rain once while we were there. I see you, J2K. But I mean, truly fantastic. I didn't really appreciate how close we could get to animals in these safari trucks and how chill and open the safari trucks were. And like the animals just seemed to not care. It was incredible. Like there was one point I could have reached my hand out of the truck and touched a lion on its nose, which is like insane. Yeah. I mean, there were moments where, you know, like a chill would go down my spine, hanging out with rhinos, hanging out with elephants. So all of that was incredible. And also the food was incredible. So I'm a guy where when I travel, I just love to eat the food and drink the drinks and all of that. Man, I fell in love with African cuisine that I never like knew existed. This stuff called sadza nyama.
Okay, what's
so
that?
Fun. It's like this. The sadza, I believe, is this like grain stuff that you eat with your hands, and it comes with like meat and veggies and like stews and curries on the side. And basically, people are saying like, yeah, if you're for real, like you have not had a meal unless you've had sadza. Like you can eat an entire enormous feast, but if you didn't have sadza, like you did not have dinner. So that stuff is really good. There's this stuff called shakalaka. I thought Boom Shakalaka was like a thing from NBA Jam. Shakalaka is a dish, and it was super delicious. I loved it. Truly, I did not have a bad meal in the 11 or 12 days that I was there. The craziest things I ate, I had ostrich carpaccio. That was phenomenal. And I ate a variety of antelopes, including one called a kudu. And kudu is amazing, delicious. So I truly loved it. One last thing, we went to see Victoria Falls, or Mosi Otunya, I believe is what it's called in the native language. And that also blew me away. Like I thought, okay, yeah, it's going to be a big waterfall. It's going to be like Niagara Falls. It's going to be super cool, natural wonder of the world. Nope. It is so much more insane than the Niagara Falls. It is one of the most breathtaking things I've ever seen in my entire life. So truly 5 stars. If you have any desire to go to South Africa, Zimbabwe, or Zambia, check it out. It ruled.
You sold me.
I'm definitely going. What part I'm going to first is the question, but that is God's country out there. I believe it. I mean, you just taught some black men something we probably didn't even know. Boom shakalaka. We didn't
Boom
know.
shakalaka. I didn't
Right?
know that.
When
I
the
didn't
dude
know
said
that was
shakalaka,
that.
I was like, wait, like what? Delicious. But now it's like, okay, now back home, it's like I want to find a place that serves this stuff. Like
Right.
that's how good it was. It's like I want to eat this again.
How
Man.
were the people? You didn't say anything about the people.
Oh,
How did
very
they-
nice. Truly
endearing?
super nice. So we did not interact with locals a ton just because we were doing like safaris pretty much the entire time. And then we went out to Mosio Otunya once. And that was really where we interacted with some more folks. And again, so chill. Like we went to this market. I met a dude who was also named Alex. I felt bad because like I had already bought all of these things. Like we bought a ton of art that we now have hanging in our home. We bought all these like cool things that we really liked. And I felt terrible. I was like, dude, I literally spent all the cash I have. I'm sorry. Like, you know, like literally like exactly
every time I go on vacation, that happens, man.
but like this guy was like also like way chilling. He's like, you know what, whatever, take a look at anyways. Like my mom made this. We ended up talking. Really nice guy. Hospitality like through the roof, very welcoming. Everybody was super friendly. Yeah, loved it,
Man.
So
I know he's got to get out of here, man, and I appreciate your time, man. But I'm gonna hold you to that about the African videos, man. I want to see it.
All right, I'll send you some African videos. I'll tease this. The craziest video that I got, we witnessed a lion attack a porcupine. Who do you think wins, lion versus porcupine?
That porcupine won.
I thought that lion would be smarter than that, right?
That's basically what our ranger said. Afterwards, he's like, I cannot believe that just happened. That lion should have been smarter than that.
Right.
But yeah, porcupine wins in porcupine v lion.
Send that video.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, send them to me private. Don't put them on out there in the open because I want to show them on the show and let people see what you have, man. But I appreciate you so much, man. Hey, give them the 411 about you and what you're doing right now.
All right. So you can find me on Twitter. My handle is right there, Alex Shapiro, NBCS. Of course, read all of our stuff. Myself, Josh Schrock, my colleague, who is the man as well, on NBC Sports Chicago. And then, as Nomad alluded to, we got the Under Center podcast hosted by the great Kenneth Davis, our captain. He steers the ship. So, yeah, the Under Center podcast, it's myself, Kenneth Davis, and Josh Schrock. That is on TV on NBC Sports Chicago, 5:30 p.m. on Wednesdays. I cannot believe that they still put us on TV. We haven't been canceled yet. Can you believe that? Like, us goons on television. It's insane.
Right.
and then the Under Center podcast, you know, we have more episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. It's a whole lot of stuff. So if you didn't get all that, I don't blame you, but go to NBCSportsChicago.com, and that's where you're going to find the best Bears coverage in town.
Man, great work, Alex, man. Appreciate you so much for coming on here and giving us all that detail, man. And make sure you tell Ken I'm coming for his soul.
Will do. All right. I appreciate you guys. This is a ton of fun. Thanks again for having me, and I'm sure I will be talking to you sometime down the road.
I will. I'll be in contact soon, man. Appreciate
it. All right, be well, guys.
Appreciate you. Take care.
That was Alex Shapiro from NBC Sports Chicago, man. I always love when he comes on here. Anybody that can come on here and share a story about his experience in Africa, you welcome, Jack, because I want to hear about it. I've dreamed about going to Africa for like my whole life, man, and I'm gonna go. It's just a matter of time when I get there, man. But wow, that was nice stuff, Sam. What you think about
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Alex is a gem, man, to the Bears community, man. He's one of the good guys of the Bears media, and I always appreciate when he comes on the show, man. He gives you the real, man. He talks about what he sees, and he's open and honest about it. And you can't help but to appreciate that, right?
Yes, sir. We got an under the weather Kids, my man from Canada. You muted, kid.
Kids, what's up, big dog? I see it in your face.
Man, I'm sniffly and my eyes all red. Don't it is what it is.
Yeah,
Another day in Canada.
Fight it.
At least I didn't twist my ankle.
Right.
You eat all the vitamins you can right now, man. You ain't getting no younger.
Vitamin C.
Oh man. Jeez, guys, where do we start, guys?
The whole conversation, man.
Say what?
What'd you take from that whole conversation?
There's ups and there's downs is really the way that I take it. All I can do is cross my fingers and hope that, come September 10th, things look a little bit more rosy. I have a little bit of faith in the depth. I've been saying that for a while, but, you can only go so deep, right? That's the reality. The more injury potential that there is, I don't know. The more dynamic Mr. Pulls is going to have to be, right? That's, I suppose, the easiest way to look at it.
So that you guys know, Triple R had he let us know that he had a technical problem before the show. I think he had an internet problem or something, but yeah, that's the reason why he's not here right now. But before we go any further, I need to address something in case you guys, if anybody's that's a follower of mine on Twitter or see me on Twitter, you know that Nomad stepped in it today. I don't know. I don't know how true it is. I'm just going to assume that it was a mistake. But anyways, I had a secret going on, and I kept it from even my team. Our team here, man. I hadn't told anybody anything because I wanted.
What are you going to do, bro? What did you do?
I don't know either, kids. I'm like, what'd you do now?
I'm gonna lay it on out there. I was talking to an NFL analyst from ESPN. He's a former player, and he's a teammate of my former college teammate. They were on the same NFL team, and he hooked it all up, and we was communicating. And then what happened was we were talking, and he let me know that, hey, man, I heard Darnell Wright was out for the season. And I was just like, what? And immediately, you talking to somebody that's working at ESPN, and you thinking, okay, he's talking to a reporter that, something happened. And I didn't really suss it out like I was supposed to. And so that's on me. That's on me, guys. I'm going to own that. As a man, I'm going to take that right on the chin. And I ran out there before sussing it out, and I put it out there. And they came at me. I hit the beehive today, Jack. I hit the beehive. They was tearing my ass up. I
deserve killer bees on the spit, bro.
I'm glad they did. You deserved that one, dude.
Hey, so
don't speak that into existence. I don't never hear that. That'd be terrible, man.
Listen, man. Listen, he ended up. I let him know, man. I was like, hey, dog, you done put my neck out there, man. He said, man, I must have got some bad information. So I don't think it was malicious. At first, I thought it was malicious, but then he let me know. He said, I think I got bad information. So that's on me as a Bears podcaster. I have to be more responsible with the things that I say, and so I'm not gonna put it on anybody else. That's on me because I made the decision to put my thumbs to the phone and put that stuff out there. So I'm going to own it. I made my bones out here by being a respectable football guy that knows what the fuck he's talking about. Excuse my language, knows what he's talking about. And I made a mistake today, man. But I can tell you that you guys this from here on out, man. And I hope you guys continue to rock with us. I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better and more responsible about the things I say because you have to stand behind the things that you say. And I'm going to be better. It's a rookie mistake from a new podcaster, and I promise you guys, I'm gonna do better than that moving forward. So that's what happened, man.
Hey, man, that happens to the best of them out there, man. We've seen every, insider get burned by some bad information. So, hey, I hope these guys continue to rock with us too. I don't think that that would stop that from happening.
No, I mean it was rough. Go ahead, kids.
I actually caught the very tail end of that on Twitter. I didn't see the whole blow up and you releasing the information. No worries. One thing I will say is, good for you to come on the show and be above board about it, talk about it, bring the issue up. We see that type of activity right now from Coach Eberflus. That's fantastic within the actual organization, and it's fantastic of you to do here tonight.
I appreciate it, man. But I just want to say this one more time. As podcasters, I see a lot of people who get stuff wrong and then pass the blame. No, that was on me. Even though I may have gotten bad information, that was on me to release that information without sussing it out and confirming the source and making sure what I was saying was accurate. So that's on me. I'm not going to put that blame on nobody. I made that choice and I got to live. I'm going to take that on the chin.
It's all good, baby.
So, but with that being said, man, I still haven't heard what the extent of Darnell Wright's injury is. At first, when everything was going on, I was thinking maybe what does this have something to do with Cole Kmet getting on a cart and he just got the wrong player or something. But yeah, don't ask me the name, man, because I'm not gonna tell y'all right now, man. Hopefully we're gonna get this business all straightened out. He come on the show later on, but I ain't feeling him right now, and I'll let him know.
He gonna man up like you did.
That's right. Right. There's some stuff happening behind the scenes right now. Everybody trying to mend fences because, yeah, that was some BS, man.
Yeah, you don't throw that man under the bus. You did a good job. You let him step in front of the bus.
somebody was like, man, you used to screenshot the text. I was like, nah, man, I'm not gonna put
Don't do it.
That's his whole career, man.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna do that.
Yeah.
But hey, man, it was still good to hear that Darnell Wright was walking around, though, man.
Yeah,
I thought about it later, when Alex first said that, I was like, dang, man, I didn't want to hear that shit. But, in perspective, you think about it, like, at least he's mobile, we've all sprung an ankle. And if you sprain your ankle a little bit, man, you're going to be a little gimpy. So, he probably has a little air cast or whatever on. So, man, I'm just optimistic about, everyone being healthy enough to play on September the 10th, man.
It's just funny, funny's the wrong word. It's ironic. You know how much we want to whoop the Packers game one. Man. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody wants to beat the Packers game one. We're tired of it. We're sick of it. We had enough. It's about time the quarterback is not, of elite godlike caliber. You know what I mean? At least just give me just a regular, signal caller in
right.
That would be great. End of the day, it's about that time, and the closer we get to that time, the more people get injured. It's pretty ironic.
It is,
there's a song about this shit.
So y'all want to hear an interesting nugget, and I wanted to get to this before Alex left, but I knew we only had so much time. But while he was in the presser, Potash asked Deontay Foreman, basically I'll say it in a nutshell, and I'll tell you how Foreman responded. He said in a nutshell, he said, hey, Roschon Johnson has been receiving effusive praise from the organization, this, that, and the third, and they really like this guy. And and he asked him, what do you think about your role in on this roster? Whether he basically wanted to ask him whether or not you're going to make this team or not. And you see Foreman give him a smirk. He just like, I'm not even tripping. He said he was just basically saying what I told somebody. Asked me that. Somebody actually mentioned that to me on Twitter, and we was talking about it. We had a whole conversation about it, and I told him, he's like, well, Deontay Foreman hadn't shown me anything. I was like, he's not going to show you anything in preseason because they know what he's cut, how he's cut. They needed to know more about Roschon Johnson. He was the one that needed to get the touches. The guys that are going to carry the load, you didn't see much of, which is Herbert and Deontay Foreman. You got to save those shoulders and legs for the season. So Roschon was the one that had a whole lot more to prove. I'm glad he showed what he showed, but people ought to look at it in that context, not that Roschon Johnson outperformed anybody. He just got more touches than anybody because they wanted to see more out of him. So that's
you don't want to you don't want to overwork your horses that you plan on working during the season too, man. And they know what they have in D'Onta Foreman and Khalil Herbert. So, and you want to get the rookie some work and see how he performs up against NFL caliber talent. So that just makes sense to me. Anyone questioning whether or not D'Onta Foreman is going to make this team is not thinking straight, because that dude, what he did last year when Christian McCaffrey left the Carolina Panthers is noteworthy, man. The guy had multiple 500 or 600-yard games, man, almost eclipsed 1,000 yards in 9 games, and guys knew that they were going to run because they didn't have a quarterback. and he still was able to do that. So,
Yeah, man.
You know, Foreman's something else. A lot less to really evaluate there because they're paying him, right? Like he's expected to be on this squad. That's the reality, at least this season. There's no expectation for them to cut Foreman. The real question from an evaluation perspective is where is Roshan at, and could we potentially elevate him faster than the standard timeline? And the standard timeline would be for him to sit behind behind Devonta Foreman and behind Khalil Herbert. They had to evaluate the kid. They spent the better part of this last game doing exactly that. He got some good touches there this past game. It was great to see. We'll see what it all looks like together with the three of them as a committee soon enough.
yep.
Another interesting nugget that I took from the presser, they were talking to Tremaine Edmonds, and it's pretty clear he's going to be ready for week 1. And I find it very reasonable that your guys that you don't want to take a whole lot of preseason contact would be the guys that take the most preseason contact. And the most postseason, regular season contact would be your running backs and your linebackers. I wish they hadn't played TJ Edwards so much, but I wish they'd have snatched him out of a whole lot of stuff. But Tremaine Edmonds, Deontay Foreman, Khalil Herbert, all those guys that do all the bang bang, you can't put that much on them in the in training camp, man, because you won't have enough of them left for the regular season. So when you look at it that way, you understand why certain guys, you haven't seen enough of certain guys. They're going to make all kind of reasons why these dudes, they're going to phantom injuries. That it doesn't make any sense other than the people that live in that, work in that building. But you got to understand that it's not because there's actually something wrong with some of these guys. Literally, some of those guys are hurting a little bit, but most of them aren't. They're just trying to save them for the regular season. So that I have to put that out there. And also, Tremaine Edmonds, it was an interesting question that was asked to him. I don't know the specific question, but one thing that stuck out to me, he said, I've been on teams that I saw all of these traits in, and I see them here. He said, when you see the 2s and the 3s looking like they're the guys, he said, now you kind of know you got you something. And he alluded to that in the presser today. And that tells me that he's got total belief in the guys playing behind him and some of the guys in other positions around the field. So what do you guys think about that?
Hell yeah. That's Noah Sewell he's really talking about, right? He's looking at the kid who stepped into his shoes and did a fantastic job over the last 2.5 weeks, if not 20 days. Yeah, man, that's really who he's talking about. He's talking about Noah and being impressed with Noah's growth. He might be talking a little bit deeper than that further on throughout across the team, but he gets a firsthand view at what that guy's doing in his job, in his shoes. And I think Noah's doing a fantastic job, and I think it speaks volumes of what that depth across the team can look like. But again,
I think he's talking a lot more about a lot more guys than Sewell.
Yeah, because I like Michael Walker. I like we know what Sanborn is, man. And the other guy, what is it? Nomad, who is he again? I still haven't Davion. I still haven't watched any film on that dude, but by all accounts, he's also another stud in that linebacker room, man. We know the linebacker room is stacked, so he's definitely going to feel that way. But I think he's saying it from the entire team's perspective, just looking at, some of the depth we have, which was probably not what he expected either when he decided to sign with the Bears. He probably didn't think that we had as much depth or that we would be able to have enough depth to compete as we probably do have right now. That I think our offensive line right now is a little sketchy, but across the board right now, man, we have a lot of depth at almost every position, I think. So we have a solid team that's been assembled in just after 1 season, 2 seasons. This is Poles' second season with the Bears, and he's assembled a solid team that can contend not only for the NFC North, but I think we can contend for the NFC, because there is no great team in the NFC. I know everyone's straight. Yeah, there is no great team out there, man. When you think of great teams, you got to think about quarterbacks, and 49ers don't have a quarterback. They have a lot of great players on their team, but they don't have a quarterback because they have 4 or 5 different guys that they're rotating through. If you have 3 or 4 guys, then you don't have a quarterback. We know who our number 1 guy is.
I ain't even gonna get into them. We'll leave them alone. Let's just say across the board, it's a weak NFC, and that's something I can't stress enough. Look at who we're scheduled to play. We have, I believe, the second weakest schedule in the NFL, not just the NFC. Second weakest. I think right behind us, though, is unfortunately the Packers.
Yep.
So it's going to be an interesting situation. That means their stuff is weak. If Jordan Love somehow pulls it out, he's got a pretty easy path to success, right? Like that's just looking at it the right way. The other way around, so do we. So let's stay healthy, guys, and get there.
So James Ford made the comment that he thought that Tremaine was talking about the entire roster. I think so too.
Me too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he's talking about the overall roster, and I wouldn't have expected that either if I were him. We didn't know what type of depth we were going to have this year, especially after stripping down everything last year and seeing we had a lot of guys on 1-year contracts, and that's why. When people say, "Oh, the Bears aren't going to go from 3 wins to 6 wins, maybe 6 wins," there's a 3-win difference. This isn't the same team from last year, so you can't say that we can't go from 3 to 9 or 3 to 12 or 3 to 10 wins. You don't know what you could do with this team. It's because we don't have the same team. The roster is completely different, so you can't say that to me.
I mean, Poles has done one hell of a job at making sure that there's absolute playmakers all over the field. When I say on both sides of the ball and special teams, there are playmakers everywhere. And so when you get the naysayers out there, it's going to take 2, 3, man, stop that nonsense, man. Who are you to say how long it's going to take? If they believe in each other, why shouldn't we?
Yep.
You know what I mean? I see the playmakers he's talking about, and talking about the linebacker room. And I think it was J2K just asked. He said that Noah Sewell, he thinks Noah Sewell could be a starter in a couple, 2, 3 years. I don't doubt that Noah Sewell can compete for a job now. You know what I mean? Like, you want to have that conversation about Jack Sanborn? I like Jack Sanborn like an MFer, but I'm telling you now, he is being challenged by the linebackers we brought onto this team. And so where they project some like a Davion Taylor or a Michael Walker, where they project those guys to play in the defense. And yes, J2K, he can play any role. He can play Mike. He can play Will. Definitely he can play Sam in his sleep. So he can play all 3 roles. And I don't know. It's about, to me, for Noah Sewell, for anybody else that's playing in any style of defense, it's about how quick can you get the calls? How quick can you assimilate what you're doing to the people in front of you? Can you get the line shifted? Wherever, if you're playing Will or Mike, can you get the line shifted? Can you take that information in, get the call to your defensive lineman, and be able to make a play instinctually at the same time? How fast he can do that, you'll see him make gains throughout the season. And so, man, I don't think Noah Sewell's the kind of guy that you can kind of leave on the bench. He's the kind of dude that you got to put out there because he's a playmaker. You know what I mean? He's just raw playmaker, man, and they're gonna find moments for him to get out there and play.
Yeah, we see that dude dissect plays in a hurry, and wherever he wants to go, he gets there fast, quick, in a hurry with bad intentions.
So everybody's camera's out right now.
I don't know what's going on.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sneezing over here, so I got a legitimate excuse. Is yours work? You all right there, Samuel? Everything good?
Booger nose kids.
Yeah.
Nah, my camera is acting up right now. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I'm a holler at good old Don Bird. Number says there's no such thing as a weak schedule. And let me tell you, Doug, as a Bears fan, you get to understand a little bit about schedules. Because a couple of years ago, we had a really weak schedule. And we went really, really far on that weak schedule. And it gave us a completely different view of the actual team that we had when the next year came around. And we had an actual tough schedule with a bunch of playoff caliber teams on that roster. Next thing you know, teams get smacked. And everybody's wondering what happened. Well, schedules were a little bit of a different thing year on year.
Yep.
Here we are. We've got a weak schedule. You guys technically have a little bit of a weak schedule too in Lion Land, except you actually do have a few. You have a few more playoff caliber matchups than we do, or than the Packers do. So again, good luck, man. It'll be an interesting season, and I hope we're eating your lunch too.
Hold on. Hey, Don is right though. There is no such thing as a weak schedule.
I
You
disagree.
can run into some teams that are a little down on elite talent versus a team that's loaded with elite talent, and you can have that fit it into your schedule. But there's NFL rosters and no such thing as a weak team. Anybody can win any given Sunday. But yeah, on that, from that aspect, and Rabbit from T3P podcast, man, we'll try to get you in here on one of these post game shows, man. I know you want to come in and turn up. We'll get you in.
What up, Rabbit? T3P. But yeah, you're right, man. Any given Sunday, man. And the Bears proved that last year. I'm sure a lot of teams thought that we were just going to lay down for them. No, teams had to come in and beat us last year. We didn't lay down for anybody. So I think the Bears did prove that last year. And it depends on the coaching and on the type of team that you have. But on any given Sunday, man, we've seen it happen where the worst teams beat some of the best teams. You scratching your head like, man, what the heck? And that's because you underestimate your opponent. And I think Flus does a good job of making sure that, you know, our team doesn't underestimate anyone, and that we don't we don't get nervous about who we're set up to face. Even though it's playoff caliber teams, we play even better against them, against the Dolphins, against the Eagles. Like, those were games that.
Oh, we lost Sam.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for that to happen, to be honest with you. It was sounding good. Everything was good. Hey, there's my man. You back, Sam, or what?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
All right,
he's not back.
I'll tell you what. Let me switch gears right quick, because we obviously need to close this thing out, man. We're having a few technical difficulties, but there's something else that I heard that Jalen Johnson said, which was welcome information when he said it. I can't remember the context of the question. All I can remember really in detail was the answer. And Jalen Johnson was asked something about, you know, him and what he's valuing right now this season as a Bear, and what he plans to do to add to his, I guess, his status in getting his new contract. And he said turnovers. And somebody asked him, you know, hey, so what is it in particular that you want to do about your game, change your game, that's different than what you've been doing? And it was perfect, because I talked about this, I think, at the bar room first, but I've continued to speak on this since we've had this network. And he said that, you know, when he's in phase with the receiver, instead of constantly, you know, being in phase with that receiver and making sure that receiver doesn't catch the ball. So he's in phase with the receiver and he's concentrated on the receiver instead of where the ball is, right? And so because he doesn't know where the ball is, he's never in position to make a play on it. And so that was the conversation that he was having with the reporter. And that is exactly what I was describing to Aldo and the guys at the bar room. And since you haven't been here when we had that conversation, kids, but I definitely said it to Samo, definitely said it to Triple R and the guys on this network. He hasn't been putting himself in position to really identify where the ball is and make a play on it, because he's so busy trying to stay in phase and lock down receivers that he's never looking for the ball. And so it was welcoming to hear him say that he's going to put himself in better position to look at the ball trajectory and see where he can put himself to get that ball. So I don't know if you heard all that, Sam, but what do you think about it?
It's John Hoke, man. That's John Hoke in his ear. You know, John Hoke, if anybody doesn't know, that's the DB coach, third stint here with the Bears, man. He always preaches turnovers with his DBs, man, and he always gets the best out of those guys. He got the best out of Kyle Fuller and Tim Jennings, guys who weren't, you know, those turnover machines, who both turned into pretty darn good cornerbacks who were able to intercept the ball. And they didn't have those interceptions before he came. Yeah, we see it with Jalen, man. He plays the man, like Alex just alluded to. He's a lockup corner, man. That's what he likes to do. He'll play the man all the way to the end, and then when he sees the ball, he just tries to knock the ball out of the guy's hand, as opposed to watching the guy's eyes and watching when their hands go up and try to turn his head real quick and try to look for the ball. Like that's just hasn't been his game in the past, and hopefully it does change for him because, like he said, that's where the money's at. Like that's what people want to see. I appreciate him locking guys down, but I appreciate him even more if he got a few picks.
Oh yeah.
What that say? What was that comment? What was that comment?
Yeah,
I thought you were looking at that.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm really thinking about what you're saying, Samuel, and I don't know if I want more. Like, ideally I want more picks from Jalen Johnson. Don't get me wrong, but he's not really physical or imposing or rangy or long, right? Like those are his shortcomings. So he has to stay in this guy's pocket, and to stay in his pocket, to stay in phases. You're saying they're Nomad. He might not really have the time, just that extra time that you would have if you were more physically imposing, if he was taller, if he was longer. And I don't want to sacrifice his ability to be that shutdown corner for a pick or two. It might actually come at the expense of a touchdown or two, right? Like that's my worry there. I kind of like. I'd love it if he gets those picks, man. I just don't want it to come at as a sacrificial lamb for his ability to really play in phase.
Well, I mean, it's you got to think about it this way. It is a lot of how they say a quarterback should have a silent clock in his head, and when to release the ball. So do cornerbacks. When you one on one with a guy, and look at it this way: when you one on one with a guy, you have a lot less room for error. When you one on one with the guy down the field, when you're in man coverage, you got a lot less room for error, and so your timing has to be impeccable. And so you count down in your head, you count down 3-4 seconds, and you expect that guy to be turning and making a play trying to make a play on the ball, and you need to be reacting to it. Also, in the zone concept, you got a lot more freedom to roam and kind of study how the player's progressing in front of you. The zone is going to put you with your eyes on the ball, and most of the time, unless you're nervous and you're watching players running in and out of your zone, you're going to be focused on them, but you shouldn't be. You should be able to look at the quarterback and where he's looking and where the ball is getting ready to go, and looking at the guys in front of you in your zone at the same time. It's a dual job. You have to look at both. You have to study, see what the quarterback, see him turn his shoulders where he's pointing, and be able to react to the players that are in your area. And so, man, oh man, you have a lot less time and a lot less margin for error. Zone, you got a lot of room to really, really take advantage of some turnovers there.
Yeah, he has to take advantage of his experience too, though, kids, man. He understands route concepts better than anyone because he's that lockdown guy. So if you know when a guy's going to break and when he's going to be looking for the ball, when the ball is supposed to be coming, then you got to use that to your advantage at some point to get your hands on some balls, as Vic would say. Yeah, I mean, and then we saw that exactly what you said, Nomad, about him being in zone and then not playing his man in particularly and breaking out and understanding the route concept. That interception he got in the what was it in training camp, where he broke off of his man. He had cut coverage underneath, and then he breaks back because he knew, he understood the route concept, and he was playing his man, but he understood like the ball could go back here, and he put himself in position to make that play. That's the type of stuff we want to see more of from Jalen, man, because he has the ability, all the ability in the world to do it, man. But he has to show it, man. That's where the money's at.
Hey, zone concepts are a player with unlimited athletic ability. It's a cornerback's dream. Man to man is just physically demanding and hard on your body, on your stamina, the whole game. You're running. Mm-hmm. And you got to be kind of like a track star playing corner and bump and run coverages all game. When you play zone, man, you got a chance to catch your breath. You got a chance to see what people are doing in front of you. You got to be cued in and understanding where where your help is coming from, who's underneath you, where the help is coming from in front of you, behind you, on the side of you. Once you understand all of that and know your role inside of it, Jalen Johnson is. That's why I said a while back, man. Jalen Johnson's got a lot of meat on the bone. If he could understand that and really enhance on his ability to understand a zone concept and how he fits in it, Jalen Johnson can eat. He can eat just like a Trayvon Diggs, because Trayvon Diggs is playing the same concept in Dallas, but he's just figured it out because that's the concept that he came into the league playing. This is only Jalen Johnson's second year in it. And so I expect a nice little jump from Jalen Johnson if he's been doing his homework and he's been working at his craft. He should be able to eat in this concept.
Not only that, he should also benefit, like J2K just said, from a better pass rush and, having better guys around him at the linebacker level. That should also benefit him. Those guys in coverage, those long arms, getting their hands on tip balls, and everything else, and just making those holes in the zones a lot smaller because we have all this length on the field and speed. So Jalen can eat, man. He just has to want to eat. That's what I'm gonna say.
All right, I'm with you, boys. Like I
Did
said,
we convince you, kids? Did we convince you?
Yeah, I wasn't. I'm not. I wasn't unconvinced to begin with. I just don't want it to be a detriment. I don't want him to focus on something that might come back to bite him in the ass. He's one of the top, lockdown corners in the league, in my opinion. He does his job very well against, against the Justin Jeffersons of the world. He faces some pretty caliber talent, and he holds them to less than stellar appearances. So, if we can stack a couple of picks on top of that, sure. Personally, I know we're going to get picks this year because of what we've done defensively already. If we can get a little bit more pass rush, those picks may be coming at the linebacker level. They might be coming from the other two rookies. Very hard to say. I'm a little bit less worried about the secondary case scenario across the board. I'm more worried about Jalen's contract down the road. So I think that's where his head is, and that's my worry, right? I don't want him, I don't want him worried about the pick for the contract. I want him worried about stopping Justin Jefferson by hook or by crook.
Let me speak to Son Taurus 9, his statement here. He says, and Diggs jumps plenty of routes too, Nomad. Yeah, that's why? It's because he understands the concept. When you have time invested in a system, it only enhances your ability as an athlete to be able to perform in it. He knows when he can freelance and get off of a receiver in his zone and jump something that he sees a tendency on. He knows what to do. And so he's going to end up with 4, 5, 6 picks on a year. Jalen Johnson can do the exact same thing. His Diggs' ability is no better or no less than they're about the same. Physically, I think Diggs may be a little faster, but I think they have pretty much the same athleticism. It's just Jalen Johnson has to invest some time in understanding his role and the people that play around him and how he fits in it. If he understands the linebackers up under him and what their role is on any given play and where his help is behind him, he will feel freer and more willing to jump some of those routes like Diggs does on a regular basis. If he's gotten there, like the play that Samuel's talking about in camp, if he's doing stuff like that, you expect a big season from Jalen Johnson. If he's doing this due diligence, you ought to see a significant jump with Jalen Johnson, if that was any indication.
And you're going to see him get beat sometimes. Diggs, I've seen a game, man. I can remember vividly a game where Diggs got beat on the play, man, trying to jump a route, and he gave up a big play. But you know what he came back and did? He did the same exact thing, tried to jump a route, and he ended that game with 2 picks. He doesn't. It didn't change his aggressiveness. It didn't change the way that he plays, man. And those 2 picks ended up, helping his team to win the game. You're gonna give up big plays. Jalen gives up big plays now, playing in man coverage, man. So you're gonna have to actually take those risks and those chances every now and then. Just make them calculated and know where you are on the field and what time of the game, the game situations and everything to limit the risk, but you got to do it, man.
Hey, you know what, man? We got to get ready to wrap this up, man. But I will say this: I may have stepped in it today on Twitter and made a big Google.
Let
But
that go, man.
I stand on me and my guys on Nomad Live and the Nomad Network. This is all Bears all the time, and I challenge you to find somebody that hit the PowerPoints like we hit them, man. We'll give you that detail that you're looking for. We ain't gonna sit there and fluff you for a whole 2-3 hours. We're gonna give you exactly what you're looking for. And if I'm wrong, unsubscribe. But I know I'm right. And so keep subscribing, keep hitting that like button. And Nick, if you want to find that commercial, now's a good time to do it. But hey, I stand by our coverage, man. We really hit the PowerPoints really good, man, to give you the kind of coverage that you're looking for. But Nick, whenever you feel like it, you can go ahead and bust that commercial, brother.
Hey, you Nomaniacs, don't forget to follow all the Nomad Network content. Find us on Facebook.
Nomad Live. Nomad at Night.
And I am Alpha in the kitchen.
And to all the most popular podcast streaming platforms like Amazon, Spotify, and Apple Music. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Samuel, tell me why Tripp is constantly feeding that woman sardines.
He want to keep her big and beautiful, man. He trying to keep her big and beautiful. That's what he told me. Emphasis on the big. But hey, before we go, man, hey guys, we have a poll out there in the community chat. I don't know if you've seen it or got a chance to engage in that poll in regards to a Nomad Network. It's going to be a team-themed fantasy football league. If you're interested, we don't want to give up any details because we don't want anyone stealing this idea. We think it's a really good idea that a lot of guys can have a really fun with, and it's going to be multiple winners. You don't have to be a fantasy football guru. You can solicit help from your kids if you want. That it's all good. It's all in fun. Everyone's going to win something, and we'll just say that. And if you're interested, let us know. If you're not interested, also let us know so that we can know if we need to put this thing together this year or if we should save it to next season.
Tell me one more time how to get to that, man. One more time.
I think it's in the community part of the YouTube interface. So when you go onto the Nomad Networks page on YouTube and you go under community, you will be able to find that poll, and it's some small details there, but once we figure out if we have enough people, the amount of people that we would need to make this thing run smoothly, then we'll put those details out there.
I think you overwhelmingly getting a good response in there already, man. So go ahead and go to the YouTube page in the comments where you go like and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff, where you will be writing in the comment section and you will find that community access right there. I think that's what you're talking about, right, Samo?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I did mention that this will be a paid league, so we're not going to get crazy with it, guys. We just want to make sure that everyone wins something, and that it's all in support of the Nomad Network too. So
we got gear coming too that will add to that, so we'll put some free gear on that.
That's going to be part of the prizes. Everyone will win something, even if it's Nomad Network gear.
Kids,
I got nothing for you, man. You guys lit it up. Give us a like and a share and a subscribe. Take a look at the poll. Get your point across in that respect. We'd love to set you guys up and play a little fantasy and talk football throughout the year with you guys. So sound off, family. Sound off, community.
Hey, sure. I'm like Armando, man. Stay cool and hydrated out there because it's hot. I mean hot. I mean, I was just doing regular stuff today, normal human activities, and damn near died just opening up my front door and going outside. It is really hot out there, man. So you definitely need to be careful out there. It's one of those we in one of those weather patterns right now where it's blinking yellow lights like, hey man, dude, be careful out there, man. You know, all these people. I took care of my yard work before like Sunday before all this stuff started happening. It was hot then, but it's like cooking now. And so don't be out there doing foolish stuff that you can wait to do later on, man. Just take your ugly butt in the house and sit on down somewhere.
I'm just laughing over here to myself because I'm sneezing and sniffling. It's like it is not hot over here. I'm just saying, like it ain't cold, but it ain't hot. Forget it. It's always a problem. Weather is always a problem in Canada. Forget it.
Good call though, Armando Jr. Good call, man. But hey man, I appreciate the conversation with you guys as I always do. We really enjoy it, man. Hey, man, dude, we're nothing without you guys, and just remember that. I know you guys had your favorite shows that were on at the same time as us. We out here fighting heavyweights, but we put our show on anyway when we have the guys we need to do the show, and so we don't run from anything. We're gonna put our content out there against anybody's, and we feel confident in what we can do. And so, with that being said, I just want to tell you guys this one last thing: love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.
Peace.